There are things that happen in life that, quite frankly, we wish wouldn't happen, but we're always in search of family harmony, even when part of that family is beginning to break up or break down. Divorce is part of our society, whether we like it or not, and it can come out of a huge surprise. What we want to do is try to help make it financially as harmonious as possible, and there's things that you need to take into consideration when you're considering a divorce, especially if it's one where you're going to try to make it amicable, especially when there's kids, even more so when you have a defined benefit plan that is left behind. Join us on Consider This program today, and we'll help give you things that you might want to consider for you, a loved one, a friend, if they happen to be going through a divorce. Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
I'm Dean Huddleston.
Hey, happy to have you along. We are discussing the theme of the whole show, and if you missed any of it, by the way, the theme is family harmony. But if you missed any of it or any of our shows, you always have the ability to go back on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts to be able to get those segments. And you can go to yourlifeafterwork.com where you can actually go in and watch the videos of us doing the show. Dean and I right now today are actually recording the show on video. You can see it that way. If you want to listen to it, that's fine as well. Remember, if you're listening on WIBC, you only get 3 of the segments. So if you want the 4th in Family Harmony, you really do need to go to a podcast or to the website to be able to get that. So we're talking about family harmony and divorce efficiency. And when I'm talking about efficiency, I don't mean a speedy divorce. What I mean is financially efficient. How can I best take the assets that we have today, divide them in such a way that makes the most sense for us as 2 separate households now moving forward? So, Dean, you told me that when we started talking about this, that if somebody went to court and got a divorce, that not all of the assets are necessarily covered.
They aren't. 401k plan, 457, 403B, is covered by 2 separate entities, Department of Labor and ERISA. Those lay out specific guidelines and rules for how those plans work and for how plans assets can be separated. Your divorce decree from a regular divorce court does not necessarily cover those plans and does not ensure that your spouse, who's soon going to be your ex-spouse, can't take those funds out without your knowledge.
So how are those done? And then if they're not done with court order?
Well, they are done with a special court order for the quadro. So
what is a quadro?
Quadro is a qualified domestic relations order.
And so that only pertains to Department of Labor plans that are controlled by ERISA.
Correct.
Okay. So what is it? What's it do?
What it does, it specifies that who has rights to the money, and if that is a spouse, were all the funds within that account built up during the marriage lifetime? Were there funds prior to the marriage that are protected? But everything that goes after that, what is the ability for the spouse that does not own that account to withdraw request the funds come out of the plan, because the plan has to approve that quadro as well with the court order, how those funds come out, and that they're not tax penalized.
So to put this in just terms so you can hear it again, the 2 people get divorced. The court says that your ex-spouse is entitled to 50% of your retirement money, right? Keep in mind, IRAs and Department of Labor plans are not one and the same, right? So when he says that, when the judge says that, or you agree to that, in your mind, and sometimes in the judge's mind, an IRA and a 401k are the same thing. You need to understand they are 2 different things, right? So you really have, under this quadro issue, what's called a defined benefit plan, think pension, right, where you get a certain amount of money, or your ex-spouse got a certain amount of money monthly at their retirement based on their high income, usually the last 5 years of their work, and the age that they separated service. And then after that, a pension is paid out and taken, right? So that's a defined benefit, a defined contribution, or your 401ks, 457s, the things we talked about. So the judge says, we're going to split everything 50-50, okay? And you sign and your ex-spouse signs, and you agree to a family harmonious divorce efficiency settlement, that we're going to get this done and taken care of. Now, You've got a quadro. Now, it's important that you understand it is your responsibility of the recipient, not the giver. It is not, if Dean and Pam got divorced, it is not Dean's job to file the quadro. It is Pam's job to file the quadro to get Dean's pension. And again, I know these are horror stories, but you need to understand, right? I have got somebody out there in my world today, right, that has a $3,800 a month check coming in, that there should have been a quadro filed, and 25 years ago when the divorce took place was not filed, and she is not getting paid, and there's not a darn thing that I can do about it or anybody else can do about it because she did not file the quadro because her attorney didn't know that they were obligated to file the quadro. Now, if she knew all this was taking place, perhaps she could go back and get it. One of our, Barb really loves the crime drama shows, and one of my favorite ones, I believe it was, I think it was Law and Order, years and years and years ago.
Great show.
The one detective, the captain or lieutenant hates this one detective. And, he's doing everything he can to get this guy to retire. And the guy just won't retire. And finally, he brings him into the office and he sits down and he says, I don't get it. You don't like your job. I don't like you. What do I have to do to get you retired? And the guy took off his hat and he says, well, boss, it's like this. The day I retire, she starts getting half. I'm going to work until I die. The lieutenant opens up his drawer, gets out a bottle of scotch, and they have a drink. He says, I get this. And so you've got that other issue. On a quadro with a 401k where you've already got a bulk of assets, most people get around to that because they're going to immediately get a check. The judge is the only person who has the ability to split IRA money or 401 or Department of Labor money while you're still alive. That is the only time this can happen, yes. Right? So my students at Purdue asked me years ago, if you remember when President Obama decided that he was going to limit the amount of money that you could have in an IRA or a 401k plan. Obviously, that didn't transpire, but my students at Purdue said, so professor, what are you going to do? And I said, this is simple. I'm going to get in a plane. I'm going to fly to Vegas. I'm going to get a divorce. I'm going to get a quadro where half the money goes to Barb, right? I'm going to get back on the plane, fly home, and get remarried in Indiana and invite my friends for a party, right? There's always a way around this if you understand the tax code and what's trying to happen. And it's a crazy world we live in, right?
It is.
But understanding how those tax codes work are important. Now, to further the story on divorce efficiency, understand that all assets are not equal. What do we mean by that, Dean?
If you're talking about pre-tax dollars.
So give me an example of pre-tax. What's that mean?
An IRA, a traditional IRA. You've never paid tax on anything in there. In your 401k plan, you may make contributions and you may have an option to put money in after tax, or you can put it in pre-tax. Everything your employer puts in, though, is pre-tax. So you're going to be building those funds up no matter what.
Okay, so that's one type of asset.
Okay. So then you've got house assets. What's the value of your home? What's the value of other accounts you have? Cars, those kind of things.
Other than the structure, what's the difference? Why does that matter in dividing assets?
Because as taxable income comes to you, are you going to have more of a tax burden on your side of the fence when you go to take those assets out than the other spouse that doesn't have the tax burden?
Right. So 50-50 is not necessarily 50-50.
It is not.
Right. One of the reasons when you look at our statement, we talk about a financial journey. Remember, we do not believe in one-hit wonders. So when you see a statement from the Financial Enhancement Group, it's not going to tell you what happened just this year or just this quarter. It's going to show you what's happened over your journey since you've been part of an FEG family. Right. So we're able to see in one picture that you get what's really transpired, what's really, really, really happened. You've got to look at your future, especially if there's kids involved, what this looks like going forward. So I think it ought to be against the law for me to mix on a statement IRA money and non-IRA money. Right, because they're two separate things. Not only, I'm obligated to put them on one statement, but boy, do we break it down. We have a tax chart that shows people what the percentage of that distribution is. And that's why. But let's face it, you and Pam get divorced. There is possibly a dramatic difference between your future income as a single individual and her future income as a single individual, especially if there's kids that are involved, right? Absolutely. Because one of you may be the parent who's having the kids more often than not, right? Yep. So I want to look to see what that future income probability is going to be, and I may give you, if I'm helping with the coordination, I may give the one with the higher income in the future more of the Roth money. and give the one who is going to take care of the kids more of the money that's already tax deferred. Now, it is critical to understand this. If you take money out of an IRA or 401k, it is a 10% federal penalty if you're under 59.5. 401k is a little bit different. It can be 55 if you retire early, but let's not go there. Right? However, if you sit down with an attorney and the attorney says you get half of Dean's IRA, and Pam, and this happens all the time, the attorney rolls the IRA, rolls Dean's half of his IRA into Pam's IRA, and Pam's not 59.5. If Pam goes to take out the money, what happens, Dean?
10% penalty.
All day long, plus full taxation, right? Now, on the other hand, if Pam goes, you know what, I need 2 years worth of income, and that money goes directly to her checking account, not an IRA. Yes, it's out of the IRA, and yes, she has to pay taxes on it, or Dean, depending on the divorce decree. However, there is no 10% federal penalty. So you really have to be smart about this. When you look at that checklist, you want to go, okay, how are the assets being divided? Make sure that if there is a Department of Labor plan, that you're getting the quadro, the Qualified Domestics Relation Order, properly filed. Your attorney will probably tell you that an IRA transfers via quadro. It doesn't, but it doesn't matter. It looks the same, kind of feels the same. It's just a whole lot easier. And when they tell you that Big Joe said it's not an IRAs are not quadro, remind them what a quadro stands for. The one qualified means Department of Labor. IRAs are specifically not qualified programs. They are individual retirement accounts. Two separate things. IRAs do not fall under ERISA. They are not done by quadro. So do not get the two confused. And it does matter in some of the things that are taking place. And remember, the work goes on you and your attorney if you're the one receiving the benefit from the quadro. If you're the one who's still working, it does not fall on you, and you can't even really file it most of the time if you want to. We tried to do that at Caterpillar just to do the right thing one time, and it got kicked back. They said, you're not the person who can file. We can't even talk to you about your half of the money. Technically, it belongs over here if a quadro is being filed. Crazy world we live in. Let's do everything we can to have family harmony when we can. Dean, it was great having you on the show today. If you've got questions or comments, go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com. Give us a call at 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. And remember, if you want to do this on your own, that is your business. But if you're looking for a fiduciary, that's our business. Again, give us a call, 800-928-4001, or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We look forward to meeting you.